Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this month's webinar with On-Demand Fulfillment. We have been getting a great response from our monthly webinar series. We're really grateful for everybody who takes their time out of their busy schedule to jump on and hopefully learn a couple of tips and tricks and some things to promote your supplement brand. I cannot believe it's already August. August 1st just snuck up on us this year. But it's been a great first half of our year here at On Demand Fulfillment. We're hoping that all of our partners and clients are seeing similar successes, and we really look forward to this time every month to just get together, share some ideas, share some best practices, create some community, and just get to know our clients a little bit better. Again, thanks for those who are in attendance today. Please feel free to use the Q&A section of our website, of our webinar. We'd love to interact with our clients, and we love to get your feedback. Tell us we're doing great, tell us we're doing horrible. All feedback is really helpful for us. We're excited to get started. This month's topic is pricing. We're going to talk about some different methods that we use to set the right price for your product in the market. That's definitely a question that we get a lot from new clients that are coming on, people that are starting up, and we just like to walk through some different research that we've done on our side to help you make sure that you are pricing all of your product correctly. But before we get started, here's our experts. I'm in quotes, experts in quotes on the left side, but Daniel on the right side is definitely an expert. For those of you guys who've not been on a webinar with Daniel yet, here's his quick bio. We call him the OG of ODF. He was in the room when ODF was born. Is that right, Daniel?
Yeah, pretty much. Shortly after, I think I was on the team about 6 months after, and me and Mitch really built it from the ground up from there. It's been a crazy whirlwind now 8-9 years later, so it's been a good time.
9 years later. In addition to that, he has over 12 years working with e-commerce businesses on separate platforms like Shopify, WooCommerce. Those are common platforms that we use in our company. Started and scaled multiple 7-figure brands and has navigated some very successful exits from those brands. Serves as a consultant for multiple 8-figure brands. And I'm telling you, he can drive a forklift like no other. I've seen it in action. Well, I've seen him drag one of those hand pallets around at least, but he's expert in
Basically
shipping equipment.
the same thing, right? Moving pallets.
Definitely, I mean, it's doing the same thing. Wanted to just give a quick summary for those of you guys who are attending for the very first time. This is now our fifth webinar in our monthly series. We make all of our webinars available for all of our clients on our YouTube page. They really have become a great resource, and we've been seeing some really good engagement there. So if this is your first time, I'd really encourage you to go back. We've noticed that our webinars start to build on each other. And I to the point where I think it's a good idea to just do a quick review today so that we know where today's topic kind of fits in what we've been building in our webinar series since April. So our first webinar series in April, we talked about ourselves, On-Demand Fulfillment, why we are more than just a fulfillment center, how we can build trust, accuracy, efficiency. I would encourage everybody to go check out our Google reviews. There's many of them. Do you know how many we're up to now, Daniel?
Today
80?
we just 92 or something
My
like
gosh.
that. Yeah.
92, and it's really great organic feedback from people who are having great experiences with our company. And it's one of the first things that new customers say to me when they get to my phone. They say, "Hey, I've checked out your reviews and they're fantastic." So thank you for everybody who's left a review. First of all, those are really helpful for us. But I think at this point, when you have 95-star reviews, like, it starts to tell the story about who you are as a company. But we talk about that in our first webinar, why we are the best partner out there. And it's a great webinar. I'd encourage you to go check it out. In May, we talked about building your brand. This is where Daniel came in and really gave his expertise on the importance of actually finding the right customer first. We actually kind of walked through a setup a customer, Thrive Her Wellness. We used that as an example, and we talked about how important it is to first identify your client, and then build a brand that speaks directly to that client. Those are the models we've seen be the most successful in our program. If you haven't caught that webinar back in May, I would definitely recommend just going back through. And then in June, we talked about, okay, now that we know who our customer is and we build a brand that speaks directly to that customer, how do we go ahead and turn that into a sale? We walked through some e-commerce and sales platform basics, talked about some startup strategies for social media, what to do in your first month, how to get started there, and then just some simple social media posting plans as well. So a nice blueprint to get started, actually turning, okay, we did all the research, we know who we're selling to, we know what we're selling now, how do we actually get that first sale? That's a really great webinar that speaks to that. And then last month, this is my graphic that I put up, is really great. We talked about marketing. It's really one of the big stumbling blocks that we see with brand new clients is how much marketing should I spend? When should I spend it? When is it too early? When's too late? How much is too much? We talked about spending versus investing. We talked about partnering up with agencies. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? This is my graphic for the bad idea, but spoiler, it actually can be a good idea as well. And then we had one of our successful partners, like successful clients, Bronson, who's come on. We showed off his numbers. He came on in January and is now doing over $100,000 in sales every single month. And we had him on, and he shared some of his inside secrets, some of the tips that he uses to be successful. And then he also kind of made available to everybody on the webinar a one-on-one mentorship program. I've spoken with him since last month. He's seeing some good results there. He's added quite a few new people into the mentorship program. And so I actually left his information on this webinar slide deck too. So anybody who is interested, anybody who just maybe you've started with on demand and you've haven't seen the results that you were looking for, or you maybe just need some coaching, you need somebody who's gone through it. Bronson is a tremendous resource. He's literally done it in the last 6 months, and so simply lining your business up with some of the key topics that he's done is a recipe for success. So you can reach out to him and ask him questions about his mentorship program if you're interested. Daniel, do you have any comments on the series so far?
No, it's hard to believe it's already our fifth webinar, and it's been fun to build these out as we go. We're hoping that for some of you guys, I realize a lot of this information may be like a refresher course, but hopefully there's at least one or two good nuggets from each one that helps make a difference and an impact. And so yeah, it's been a good time, and happy we're still having a good amount of attendees on each of these. So glad you guys are all here.
Yeah, me too. And it really has been great. It's been great to see it just stack on top of each other. And I think we're putting together a really great resource for any client who's looking to start a successful dropship program. So today, the topic that we're going to be discussing and putting some time and effort into is pricing, as I mentioned. Right, this is another stumbling block that we come across, and we see some of our new clients kind of wrestle with. Is what's your strategy for price? Like, what's your strategy for your brand? How are you going to price your product in the marketplace? Why do you do that? What are things that you should look for? And we're gonna bring in some case studies into today's conversation that I'm pretty excited about. Some examples of what we've seen work, what we've seen not work out there. So with that, we're excited to get started. So what is the best strategy for setting the correct price? Why is this kind of hard? We would like to talk about some common pricing models. These are some general models that all e-commerce customers follow. We wanted to put them all out on the table so that our clients can kind of look through them and see which one best fits them. Talk about premium brands. What does it mean to be a premium brand, and what does that require to charge a premium price? Should you be bundling? Right, let's talk about that. Is that a good strategy? And then talking about, okay, what if I don't want to price to be my only lever that I pull to generate demand for my product? What are other options that we can use there? So some of the common pricing models that we start to see when you're looking to put together your e-commerce brand, talk about keystone markup. That's a term that I used a lot in my career. Everybody wants to double their wholesale, right? Keystone. double your COGS. That's could be a pretty good option depending on what you're selling. Maybe with supplements where we're talking about higher margin product, maybe we should be looking to expand that even further. Maybe keystone markup isn't the best model for some of our clients. Daniel, you had some thoughts on this. When you're setting up your e-commerce businesses, which model would you typically look at when you're looking to price?
Yeah, I think touching on that keystone markup, I think that works really well for some of our clients who actually have a lot of wholesale accounts, right? There's people that'll order a 50 bottle bundle going to one of their retailers or one of their clinics that they've got selling their supplements, right? And that's a great place to be in where, I know you'll talk about it in a minute, but the average cost of each of our bottles with shipping, if you're shipping one at a time, is like $10. But if you're able to sell 50 bottles in one batch, you can get away with that, 2x of COGS a lot simpler because it's, 50 bottles at $4 a bottle and then $50 in shipping for the whole thing, right? So if you're able to move in wholesale or large quantities, that's where we seem to see that 2x markup. And, I'm just kind of giving some examples to think outside the box of maybe typical, just Amazon, right? But I'll let you touch on the other ones and I can add on to those too.
Yeah, so another model we see that very common is cost plus. So basically cost plus pricing. So essentially you have a target margin percentage that you want to hit, and you just basically build your model to hit that margin percentage. We also see pricing that's based on your competitors. Basically look out and see where your competitors are priced. I think that one honestly is the most common that I see with my new clients that sign up. You basically go onto Google, check out your supplement out in the market and see where the high point is, see where the low point is, and maybe target somewhere in the middle. That feels a little like guessing for me, but it seems like that's what a lot of our clients kind of do to start off. I see some clients who do a really good job at really promoting value. So in other words, they understand you can go buy a bottle of, their particular supplement on Walmart for $10, right? But what they'll do is they instead focus on the value that they can bring to the table. Maybe they have an expert following. Maybe I have a client who's a world-renowned neurologist, right? And he brings his expertise into the equation, and because of that, he can add value to his offering. That's definitely something that we see out there. It's a popular model, but you have to be on your game to be able to bring that card to the table. Basically, if your product helps somebody sleep better or erase pain, it's often worth more than the ingredients would suggest. I'm always shocked, Daniel. I love your feedback on this, but I am always shocked when I go pull up Google and I see ashwagandha, 10 different ways, priced 10 different ways, and it literally is the same price for 10 different brands. Do you have any feedback into like if you're trying to break into that market, like where do you start? What do you do?
Yeah, Google is interesting because it's not super common that Google is going to be the first place that brand is marketing, right? So you get it when you go search a supplement on Google, you'll see all the different prices. Most of them are spending their primary marketing dollars on different platforms, and based on some might be an Amazon brand that has to be really competitive on price, and they maybe have a cheaper product price point like $20. They're still going to typically have a website with a listing, and they're going to show up on Google Ads or Google Shopping Ads. But because their primary channel of all the volume they're selling is on Amazon, where they're selling it for $20, they have to match that price. That's where they've built their brand around. But if you're running your own website, you have all those other additional value add things. You've determined that you can really provide a lot of value, and your product maybe has a few different ingredients here, there, or certifications, or whatever your value add is, and you can charge $50. Your primary platform is your own website where you're educating them, and you're spending those marketing dollars on Facebook or YouTube to drive sales directly to your website, and you're fully in control of basically convincing them that the product is worth that price point because of the problem that it solves for the consumer. And that's back to your question you asked a few minutes ago about how do you look at all these different models and determine it. It is very different based on, but a lot of it stems back to the initial goal for the brand, right? And the initial goal for the brand, when you're identifying your target, well, some of the questions it talks about is a lot about their demographics, right? Should include what kind of income level they are, kind of the average household income for that person. So you have an idea Is this a 45 to 50-year-old mom that's got her kids grown up mostly out of the house? They start coming into having more money because they're no longer paying for 4 kids playing sports and all the food they're eating. You can typically, with that age, charge a little bit more. But if you're targeting, an early 20s sports nutrition, and they're just wanting, like the best, weight loss capsule or pre-workout or something like that, there's a lot of them out there, and they typically have a little bit smaller budget. And so you got to keep that in mind when you're pricing it out. If your brand is specifically trying to be the high quality but low cost alternative to a specific competitor in your market, you have to keep that in mind. So it really does, I personally usually start at like a cost plus pricing, where I kind of think, okay, I'd love to end the day with, let's say, 25 to 30% profit. Let's reverse engineer it from there. And I know you're going to go into kind of calculating your COGS and stuff in a minute. Reverse engineer it from there and figure out roughly the range where I'd want to be. And then I start doing the market research to better understand where and how I have to define my brand to get to that price that I want it to be, for it all to make sense.
That makes total sense. As I was researching this topic for this webinar, like I kept going back to really what you talked about in one of our first webinars, right? Like if your goal is just to be part of the noise out there and try to just throw a dart and price you somewhere in the middle, that's not a model for success that we've really seen. What we have seen, exactly as we've taught in this series, is if you start at the ground and you know exactly your customer is and what you add to the customer, and you build your brand exactly like we talked about from the get-go, then that's almost going to naturally position you from a price standpoint. And then when you're out in your competition, that's simply an extension of your base brand, right? That you've spent all your time and resource and research building, and you're going to have a lot more success. And at that point, you shouldn't feel like you have to be the lowest price out there. Now on the flip side, if your goal is to not do any of that research on the front end, not build any of that foundation, and simply just create a listing on Amazon, number one, good luck, right? It's not a model that we've seen that's been successful, because you're asking customers to build a price, to pay a price that you really haven't given any offer to. And that's not the model that we see success. So every time as I've researched this topic, I've just gone back, like, you have to do the work on the front end if you want to be able to command a decent price on the back end.
Yep, I agree. It all starts in the foundation, and also realizing that there is going to be fine tuning and tweaks through the entire process and forever. That's just business, right? There's going to be situations where you're going to have to adjust maybe the price by $4, and all of a sudden that makes your conversion rate go up by 20% of what it was before. And now all of a sudden your marketing cost makes sense, right? So being flexible and realizing there's not a one answer solves all is really the secret to success long term, and always being in, I guess, problem solving mode when you're trying to figure this out.
Exactly. So to that point, we're talking about, what is your goal? What's your goal as a brand? Are you trying to be a cheap brand? Are you trying to just be the lowest priced supplement out there? Is that your goal? Or are you trying to be a premium brand? Okay. I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot from clients in my job. I hear that a lot throughout my entire career. I've heard, hey, let's be a premium brand. We've leaned a lot on Daniel's expertise, and we're still leaning on it today. But I thought it would be actually cool to bring into this conversation some of my background now. I've sat in many executive meetings talking about brand. I've sat with many, VP of marketing who really say, hey, we are a premium brand. We want to be a premium brand. And sometimes you say that out loud. Who doesn't want to be a premium brand? Like, I've never been in an executive meeting where they've said, we want to be a bad brand. We want to be a garbage brand. We want to be a low end brand. Like, I've never heard that once in any executive meeting that I've sat in. Everybody wants to be it. They all say it out loud. But what does it really take in this model to be a premium brand? Does your label, does your website, do your reviews, have you done the work on the back end to prove to your customers that you are a premium brand? I'm bringing to the table a case study from a company called Sawgrass. This is actually a company on my resume. I was VP of sales for Sawgrass for 4 years. And I'm going to talk a little bit about their strategy, okay? I know this sounds a little bit weird to be talking about printers in a supplement webinar, but I think if you just stick with me for a second, you'll see the point that we're trying to drive home. So sublimation printing is pretty interesting. In fact, if you really want to try it out, it's actually a special type of ink that sublimates. It actually infuses into solid substrates, right? So you can do t-shirts, you can do keychains, you can do things like that. You basically print out sublimation ink, you heat press it, and it infuses into the product that you're going to be using, right? Well, for years, Sawgrass was the only company out there that could do sublimation. They had a patent. They owned patents for 30 years on sublimation ink and printing. They would manufacture their own ink in-house, and they called it liquid gold. It was the lifeblood of their entire company, right? You had to buy their product. They didn't make anything on their printer, but they made everything. They made super high margins on this liquid gold sublimation ink that they made themselves. Their pricing, if you ever went to buy a sublimation printer from Sawgrass, if you wanted to refill the ink, it was $79 per cartridge, so $319 for 31 milliliters of ink. And they sold it for years. It was the only option. Well, there's my graphic right there. 31 milliliters, $79.99 per cartridge. If a cartridge ran out, you needed more yellow, $80. You had to go buy it. They fixed the price. Nobody could discount it. The price was the price. That's what you had to pay. Well, along came what happened is their patent ran out, became open market. Anybody who wanted to sell sublimation ink now could. And this is what happened. A huge player, Epson, came into their market. And what did Epson do? Well, they came out with 140 milliliter ink cartridges for half the price. So 5 times the ink for half the price. Well, how did that impact Sawgrass sales? That's the situation that I walked right into. And again, every executive meeting that I went into, they kept saying, "Well, we don't care about them. We're premium. We're better. Our customers will pay double for 5 times less ink because we're a premium brand." Well, I would look around and say, "Well, why? How are we a premium brand? What are we doing that's better than Epson for this price?" And then on top of all that, we actually also had our we had kick knockoff ink that came in that could be used in either a Sawgrass printer or an Epson printer. And this ink was 100 milliliters for $5 a cartridge. That's crazy. $20 for an entire set where we're charging $320 for an entire set. The market was moving. I think consumers were loving it. You're right. They were sick of having to be shackled to having to pay. I remember it. I remember the ink in general. If you had to go just get any ink printer, inkjet refill printer, it was super expensive. And now all of a sudden, you have these guys coming into the market driving the ink price down. There was some major competition for Sawgrass. As you can see, $319 for an ink refill. You had Epson, who is just crushing the market at half your price, and then you had all these little other guys you had to worry about. The bottom line is it failed. Like Sawgrass failed. I don't even know if they're still a company anymore. I don't know if you can still buy their product. Like they failed to adapt to that strategy and that change in the marketplace, and it almost ended their company. If they're still around, they're barely hanging on for hanging on to a thread. And really, the takeaway that I think it's relevant for this conversation, why we're bringing it up, is we're talking about the fact that you cannot just say you're a premium brand. If you say you're a premium brand, it doesn't make you a premium brand. You can't pretend that your competition is not relevant, or it's a fatal mistake. Forgive me if I'm a little passionate about this because I watched this play out in real time. It's one of the reasons I ended up at On-Demand Fulfillment, and I'm grateful that I'm here because it's a very difficult situation to be in from a brand standpoint. And if you're in the position of starting your brand and you're thinking, I want to be a premium brand. I hear that all the time on calls when new clients are getting set up. That's great. We all want to be a premium brand. You can be a premium brand, but you have to put in the work to really message successfully to your customers why you are a premium brand. Premium pricing demands premium delivery. You need to give it in quality, in experience, and in trust. Customers aren't just comparing your label, they're also comparing your value. You need to know the worth of your brand. You need to take the steps to prove it with every detail. Daniel, do you have any comments on this? You ran into this in your career as far as premium brands are concerned?
Yeah, definitely. I think what I kept thinking about the whole time when you were, talking about the sawgrass example was, um, when you have a patent and you're the only one that can sell a certain product, sure, it's easy to position yourself. You have a unique selling proposition or, a USP, and you can easily differentiate and you have an easy pitch of why you're different. Truth be told, pretty much all supplements on the market can be ripped off. There are very few patents out there on, a lot of the patents that used to be around on certain combinations of ingredients and stuff has been the laws around that make it harder to do that. So there's very few patented supplements out there. So it is really hard to differentiate on something like that. And it goes back to focusing on, you can't just be, selling your product. Oh, we just sell sublimation printers with really high priced ink. That's what we do. That's our value. Or we just sell supplements. The very webinar number 2, we talked about you're not just you don't just sell supplements. You solve these problems for these people. And the value that I feel can be most provided in the supplement space and in building brands around supplements is finding all the possible and potential ways that you can continue to provide value to your ideal customer. Let's say you're selling our menopause support, and that's going to be your flagship product. You really want to help people, going into menopause, in menopause, post-menopause. That is your target market. Well, how can you start providing value to people that would make them feel like your product really is that much, not just your product, but your brand is a brand that they want to associate themselves with, be a part of, and be happy to share with their friends, right? What values can you add? It's off the top of my mind. I'm like, hey, you could do a webinar series with, experts in the industry that are maybe doctors that specialize in menopause, treating the symptoms with other natural things or exercises or whatever it is, diet. I'm not an expert in there, so I don't have great examples off the top of my head, but finding resources that you can continue to provide to your customer base for free, or maybe if you want to build more of an exclusive membership, or hey, if you're on our recurring subscription for this, you get access to all of these other value adds that we have, right? We have these, coaching calls, or these, this information free. We've partnered with this company that specializes in these products that also help you, and we've partnered with each other to get you special discounts with them. Think really outside the box of how can I provide the maximum value to our customer, really serve them, and they're going to feel that over time. They're not going to feel like you're just trying everything you can to get them to buy your product. They're going to feel like you're actually trying to help them. And if you are truly helping them, the money always follows after that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think it's an important concept to understand as you're building your brand. And there's many ways to add value. I think Daniel gave us some really good examples right there. Could also be as easy as just giving great education in a TikTok video or in an Instagram video, or you having your marketing videos tell the benefits of your supplement in a way that just hasn't been told before, right? That's value right there. That's something that you can present to your customers and add value to your brand right there, and in turn separate your price from those guys out there that are just racing to the bottom. We've seen a couple of our clients get on that ride. It's hard. Once you start racing to the bottom, that race goes pretty fast. But once you get there, you've now given away all of your leverage, and your brand, doesn't stand that much of a chance anymore. You've pulled every level. We're talking a little bit more about in this minute. So, talked about being a premium brand. Let's talk about the subscription model really quick. We're also going to talk about bundle options, whether that's a good idea or not, and then just discounts in general. Like I mentioned, we're going to talk about that in just a second. So the subscription model, this is really interesting. I really enjoyed this research as I was doing this for the webinar. Obviously, there's clear advantages of incorporating the subscription model into your business, right? You have a predictable revenue stream. How nice would it be to sit down every single month and know at the beginning of the month exactly how much revenue is coming into your company? Well, you can do that through the subscription model, right? You get a higher customer lifetime value. Those customers tend to stick around longer. You have long-term relationships with your customers. You reduce the acquisition costs, right? You probably have to spend a little more on the front end to get that subscription number up, but once those subscribers are in-house, your acquisition costs go down. And then I'm telling you, it's convenience. If there's one thing I've learned myself as a consumer coming into the supplement market, it's a pain when I run out of my supplements. Like, it's an inconvenience. It's great to just have a special package show up in the mail every single month, right? With the supplement that I know I'm going to need anyway. So tons of advantages, and you can see it all over the place. A specific case study that I wanted to call out for the purpose of this is, you look out in the IT world, you look out in the software industry, right? Everybody's going to a subscription model. The case I'd like to highlight is Adobe, right? Adobe is actually near and clear to our hearts. They are based. They have a huge office here in Utah. We drive past it every single day, and they went from just a order one at a time model to a subscription model. They did that back in 2017. And I dug in and I wanted to see, okay, what was the impact? What happened to their business when they moved over to a subscription model? Well, it was instant. They saw immediate increases of 10 to 12% year over year, which, with the volume that they do, those are significant increases for sure. And if you compare their user base today in 2025 to back in 2017, it's 85% growth. Those are staggering growth numbers, and it's all guaranteed. I mean, it's all reliable revenue every month. They know exactly how much revenue that they have coming through. Why does it work? Well, we're back into we're back into bundling. So did you have any comments you wanted to make on the subscription model, Daniel?
Yeah, yep. Um, Long-term picture too, if you're ever wanting to build something to exit, like you want to actually sell the company, MRR, or monthly recurring revenue, gets valued at a higher multiple. And so if you have really consistent recurring revenue streams, investor firms and stuff, they'll pay a higher amount for that revenue than they would for revenue that you have to go out and hunt and find new buyers every single month. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, one of the bullet points not on the first slide about subscriptions that I thought of was, you are able to spend a lot more to acquire your customers once you start knowing your numbers. Some of you may know the click funnels, sales funnels in the marketing world. They're able to sell like a free book, just pay shipping. It's like $10, but I know in the past they've spent upwards of 150 to, even I think multiple hundreds of dollars to get each one of those sales, because they know on average, they know exactly how much money on average their customers are going to spend over the lifetime of their being a customer. And so once you know, okay, I can get someone on subscription with my product, they stay on average for 6 months at $40, I'm going to get $240 in revenue. Okay, I can justify spending 100, 150, where that cutoff is much higher to spend on marketing than if you're just trying to sell them one bottle and then maybe hope they're going to buy again later. And so once you can get more and more competitive on your marketing spend, you can outperform and beat out all of your competitors on wherever you're marketing. So it solves a bunch of problems in one, just to really get that subscription model dialed in and find what type of model and bundle or deal really works for your brand and your customer.
That makes so much sense. I didn't even think about that. If you're building towards an exit strategy, like that's a quick way to add value to your brand as you continue to build it. And to be honest with you, just look around, look at other markets. We're looking in the software market, but look everywhere. I pay a subscription for my car wash, right? I pay a subscription. You're good friends here at On Demand Fulfillment, as you guys all know. We have a nice subscription model that works for our business. It's a successful model, clearly. So if there's a way to incorporate a subscription somehow into the brand that you're building, I would definitely take a look at that. I think it's a successful model that we're seeing. Let's talk about bundles for 1 minute here. So obviously bundles, great way to increase your average order value. It's probably one of the most attractive reasons. Your total cash orders go up. You're reducing your fulfillment costs and your shipping costs. We're going to talk about that in just a second. The perceived value is much more. You drive a repeat business. You're getting your customers used to your product. And in the world of supplements, that return customer is huge. It's big. It's one of the best parts of our business, is that return customer is so strong with the supplements. And then we reduce that decision fatigue. We talked about that before. We just make it easy for customers to buy. If they like a supplement, they're probably going to like to buy 2 or 3 or 4. It's easier for them to make that buying decision. So Wanted to walk us all through just an example using on-demand fulfillment as a case study once, right? Bundles. This is something that is very popular with our clients, and it's really easy to see why. The example that I decided to use for purposes of this case study is just our mushroom supplement. If you haven't looked into our mushroom supplement, you really should. It's one of our top selling supplements. It's fantastic. It's got a strong street value, excellent reviews on it. I take it every single day. There's some great science behind it, so I'd definitely check it out. But I just randomly selected that. We have over 80 supplements in our program. I just selected our mushroom supplement, and just so we can walk through as an example. So our tier 3 bottle cost, which is typically what we sell to our clients, it's $4.36. Our shipping price, our shipping model is based on weight. So if a customer orders one bottle, we're going to charge $5.85 to ship that. That's all of our 3PL fees included in that price. So your total wholesale cost, if you're a client of ours, you're going to sell mushroom, your total wholesale is about $10, right? $10.02, right?
And real quick, I
So,
just wanted
sure.
to add in there real fast that for those who are listening to this as a kind of introduction to ODF, our shipping cost there includes all the typical warehouse fees. We're actually printing the label, applying the label, packaging it, printing the shipping label, the carrier fee, any labor associated with that. We include all of that in that 585 to try to simplify it on your end and just make it really clean and simple. So that's the total COGS, or the cost of that product shipped out the door is the 1002. Just for those, I know if you're an existing client, you know that by now, but for those who are new, just wanted to clarify.
This is coming from Daniel, who's owned his own 3PL in his last. So he clearly understands all the additional expenses that are involved with that. So thanks for pointing that out, Daniel. Yeah, it's not just the shipping cost. Some of our clients look at that and be like, that looks a little bit. Well, it is an attractive price, but it includes a lot more than just shipping. So thanks for pointing that out. So if we take that wholesale cost at 1002 that we've already defined, let's say we're going to go ahead and sell that out in the marketplace for $29.99. That makes our profit margin right at 20 bucks, basically $19.98. That puts our margin percentage if we sell one bottle at $66. So let's say we set that up on our site or our e-commerce platform. We sell one order for one bottle. Those are the numbers that we can expect to make. And actually, Daniel, in your experience, I'd say that's great margin. Wouldn't you say that? Is that a target? Were you targeting 66% on other companies that you sold?
Yeah, typically
Products you were selling?
typically COGS we try to be right around 30 to 35%.
Me too. I was closer to 15 to 18%. We were low in the electronics world. You can't expect much. If you can get 20%, you're doing fantastic. So 66% profit margin is really great. Your money's working harder, right? It's really hard to put out $1,000 to only make 200 on top of that. So again, it's why you're in the right place. If you're starting a supplement business, the margins are really good. However, this is just if somebody orders one bottle. Let's say they order two bottles. Okay, let's walk through that. Now we have our bottle cost is that same 436 times 2. Total bottle cost is $8.72. Because our shipping model and our 3PL model, our shipping, packing, pick, pack fees, label, everything is based on weight. Now you have for two bottles, you're going to only pay $6.42 for those two bottles. That makes our wholesale bundle cost $15.14. So let's say you go ahead and now you sell it instead of $29.99, you're going to sell it for $47.99. It's a better deal for the customer per bottle, right? You're going to give them a better deal per bottle if they buy two. But in return, your profit margin actually goes up to $32.85, which is 68%. So you've actually increased your margin percentage by 2 points while giving the customer a better deal per bottle. It's an amazingly effective way to increase your margin percentage, not to mention your total margin dollars that you're putting into your pocket with every order that comes through on that packet. Daniel, do you have any comments there?
No, I think after you show the next one, I'll touch on that.
So we can extrapolate that even further, right? A 3-pack bundle, that number just keeps going, right? And we now are at a total bundle wholesale cost for 3 bottles at $21.64, I just selected the selling sample price of $69 because again, we want to continue to give our customers a little bit better deal per bottle. If they buy it in a bundle, we're going to expect that. If I'm going to buy 3 bottles, I expect a little bit better bottle price per bottle. But even there, your profit margin goes up even more. You've actually ticked up your profit margin percentage up to 69%. And I feel like I could actually be a little bit more aggressive with that sample selling price if I wanted to. I have the margin there to play with it a little bit. But even if I held firm and made extra margin, um, I'm making more per bundle sold. My profit margin is going up. My margin percentage is going up by offering bundles. So if you this is a trick that I tell all my clients, if you're not offering bundles, you're leaving margin on the table a little bit more. And I feel like you can be even a little bit more aggressive than what we've been here in our sample. So
Yeah. So what I want to touch on is those of you who are really watching like that margin percentage, you might say, hey, that only went from 66 to 69%. So, but I'm trying to convince somebody to spend $70 instead of $30. I can convince people to spend $30 easier. While that might be true on some platforms, especially like TikTok, where you can actually get organic traffic and organic sales, the numbers pretty much never anymore, anyways, work out on platforms like Meta or Facebook and Instagram, where pretty much any consumer goods product, you're going to be spending 30 to, around $30 per sale to get sales. And now if you're looking at margin, you actually have enough margin left over to pay for your advertising cost and still have net profit at the end of the day. Get them on subscription, get them on email marketing, in a month or two. There's continually generate revenue from the same customer versus trying to get the cheapest bottom of the barrel client or customer. The ones who are only looking for the lowest price are not typically the ones who are going to be like, yeah, let's jump on subscription, or yeah, let's keep buying, or oh, you got more products. They're just looking for a deal. And so it may be harder initially, and you might spend a little bit more on marketing to get someone to buy a $70 bundle. They're going to be a higher value client long term, 90% of the time in all the brands I've seen.
absolutely. And really what we're trying to do here in this webinar is to give you ideas. Like if you're trying to increase your margins in your sales, rather than raising your price and putting your offering in a place where it's no longer competitive, consider bundling up. Consider adding a couple bundles. It's a nice way to stay competitive, to still keep your offering very attractive to your customer base, but also at the same time improve your margins. So that's great feedback. The next point we want to talk about is what can we do other than price, right? Sometimes, and I've been in this position before professionally, where sometimes your solution shouldn't always be let's just give a discount. Let's just give a discount. Let's just give a discount. That's fine. Sometimes it is an appropriate time to give in a discount, right? But the problem is if you're always discounting, then what you're doing there is you're conditioning your customers to just sit and wait for a discount, right? And you just get stuck in that vortex. You see that examples of that in the business world all over the place, right? Where people now just don't buy anything unless it's on sale. And so what are some ways that we can do maybe to still drive demand, to get people excited, to drive urgency about our product line without discounting the product? And I came across this again. Now we're talking about chicken on our supplement webinar, but I think the principle is really interesting. As I was looking out for ways to do this, I came across this case study from KFC in Australia. Okay, so let me walk you through this really quick. So the challenge for KFC, they would do an annual promotion on their French fries, dollar French fries, right? Who doesn't want that? Everybody would love dollar KFC. I haven't had KFC French fries very good. They don't look that good to me, but I don't know. Maybe I know KFC is a strong brand. So KFC started to notice year by year their dollar French fries was kind of tapering off. It wasn't getting the result that they were getting in the past. So what they did is they went and teamed up with a marketing company, Ogilvy, and they said, okay, how can we make our same offer look better, more attractive to our customers? And their end result, I can give it to you right here, they increased their fry sales by 56%. Well, how did they do it? Let's dive in a little bit. Let's dig into it. So the first thing that this marketing company did is, well, they focus on behavioral. They focus on behavioral strategies, right? They really got in and looked in the psychology behind the decision making of their customers. They focus on 5 basic behavioral science principles: loss prevention. So basically, while supplies last, get it now, it's going away. They factor that into their promotion. Reciprocity, basically saying, hey, we'll meet you halfway. You give us some, we'll give you some, right? You want free French fries, I'm sure, Mr. Customer. I'll tell you what, we'll meet you halfway and we'll sell it to you for $1, right? They focused on messaging around that. They talked about a value payoff, basically saying this is in store only. Buy supplies last. In store only, which is funny because KFC in Australia doesn't deliver anyway, so they're just reinforcing a message that's already available and free to all clients, all customers. They anchored it, basically said, while there's only 4, you can only buy 4 of these. That's all you can get for this promotion. And then they also focused on social norming. Everybody is loving $1 fries. Are you sure you're not running it? It's funny as you look through and study these these psychological methods that you use for marketing, because once you understand them, you start to see them out in the world. And it's interesting how effective that they can really be. So what worked in this case study? Basically, they ran Facebook ads as a test group for all 5 of their behavioral principles that they're focused on, and the reciprocity was the most successful, along with anchoring. They actually had customers asking, hey, wait, I know I can only buy 4 at once, but what if I go through the drive-through twice? Does that mean I can then buy 8? Sure. We just conditioned our customer to now buy 8 of our $1 fry promotions, because they felt like they needed to get it right. It was that anchoring effect. The element that they found that maybe didn't perform at the level of the norm was social norming. They said customer feedback was they felt like they were getting sold something. It was like an ad. So the key takeaway to this campaign, it's really cool. You should go look it up if you want more information on it. But they were able to increase fry sales by 56%. They saw an 84% increase in the 4-pack purchases. They had a banner year for this promotion, and they again didn't change the offering and didn't change the product one bit. They just focused on some of these psychological elements. So the key takeaway is be smart with your messaging, be creative with the new offers. Sometimes you can position your offering in just a different way and get a much better result. Treat marketing as if it was market research. Try and test everything. If you're marketing on social media, if you're paying for ads, try different ads and use that as market research. Use behavioral therapy to frame your value, not just describe it. And then reframe your limitations as advantages. Basically, in this case, their limitations was they don't deliver. So instead, they framed it as an advantage. Hey, pick up only, right? It's a pretty cool way to get a nice result. And clearly it worked for our good friends in Australia that are buying KFC fries, right? Daniel, can you see our guy there on the growth chart? He's got his fries in his hand.
That's right.
Happy.
What stands out here to me is, even a multi-billion-dollar company like KFC that you think by now would have known how to sell their fries, are always constantly testing and optimizing. And even with a really solid game plan, they found things that didn't work and they're taking those away. And that's why those companies are successful, because they're constantly optimizing and testing. So I've said it before and I'll always say it, is just realize that is marketing, right? Market research is marketing, because you're constantly having to keep figuring out what's working now, what's the new way to convince new buyers to be appealed to your product. So it's always a good way to look at other industries as well and get ideas outside of the box of just supplements.
Well, that's kind of what I thought was as we were conceptualizing this entire webinar. Like, I know it's a hard thing to start a supplement line or to keep a supplement line going. And so what we wanted to just provide is some different ideas and some different methods that we've seen out in the e-commerce world that you could potentially evaluate and incorporate into your brands. The key takeaway here is, we talked about premium branding. Requires more than a price tag. You can't just saying you're a premium brand doesn't make you a premium brand. Bundle smart. Make some bundles. Bundles seem to work. Bundles will increase your revenues. Subscriptions. if you haven't thought about that and incorporating a subscription model into your business, maybe that's something you should consider. Something we're seeing some nice success with clients who are able to be successful at it. Um, Sometimes it's not just about price, and follow the psychology. Psychology matters when it comes to pricing. So those are the key points on effectively pricing that we've talked about today. I don't know if we have Nevada there. I haven't seen any Q&As. Maybe everyone's just really happy and maybe they got hungry because they were, we're talking about KFC chicken. I'm not sure. But we're always open to feedback from any of our clients. If anybody has any feedback or you want to email us directly, we're happy to do that. If any of you are on maybe for the first time and you're thinking about whether or not you want to partner with On-Demand Fulfillment, please reach out to us. This is our method. It's really simple to get started. Just shoot an email over to our sales department. We have Cindy or myself that will usually grab those. We send you over a fulfillment agreement to sign. It's a very easy process. It's an electronic document that you just sign and we can get you started, get that initial setup fee paid, and then we pass you to our onboarding team to get you started with selecting your product. We generate some SKUs for you, and we get you started on the process of label design. So it's been a banner year so far for on-demand fulfillment. It's been really fun and exciting to be a part of it. I feel like our growth years I don't see our growth really slowing down, Daniel. It feels like the demand out there is really great. Even during these summer months when people seem to be distracted doing other stuff, I mean, the business has been really, really strong. So hopefully you guys are feeling that as well. Daniel, do you have any closing remarks or any concepts or thoughts about pricing?
No, I think the only thing I wanted to kind of mention is if anybody has any kind of next topics that you'd like to hear about. I mean, I'm recognizing a lot of repeat attendees on the list. Some are names I don't recognize, and other are names I've known since 2018, 2017. They were clients back then, so been around for a long time. If anybody has any concepts or topics or areas you'd like us to cover, we'd love to have that feedback. Email that to sales@ondemandfulfillment.com, and we can review those and put those into kind of our brainstorming of ideas. Because our goal here again is just to provide as much value to our clients and potential clients to help them grow a successful, e-commerce brand using ODF as a partner. So your input on what you want to learn is most valuable at this point. So that's really all I had.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. And along with that, if anybody we like to highlight our partners. If you have other businesses like we did last month with Bronson, anybody who's interested in coming on and participating in our webinar series, please reach out and let us know too. We love to interact with our clients wherever we can. So again, that's it for August 1st. Can you believe that? We'll be on the schedule again for the first week of September. But in the meantime, thanks for taking time out today. It was really great to chat with everybody, and shoot us an email if there's anything we can do. Thanks a lot, everyone.